I'm Brian Howlett with Pro Video Coalition. I'm with Bold Distribution. We're talking about fizz control. That's focus, iris, and zoom with the Ymer hand controller. It's German, it's a Swiss company, so I'm not really sure if I'm pronouncing that correct. I am in the South. I will mess it up. So let's talk about fizz controls.
It's good. It's the Ymer 3. So they have the Ymer 1, which is a single channel wireless follow focus, but the Ymer 3 is their new 3-channel follow focus, iris, and zoom.
Why is it important to have one hand controller, but 3 controls on the lens? Like, what's the reason?
Well, you've got like fizz, focus, iris, and zoom. So you can have one person controlling all elements of the lens, separately from the camera operator. So the camera operator gets to focus on moving the camera while another person, first AC or whoever, gets to look at a monitor and control the focus, the iris, and the zoom of the shot or the lens.
How easy is it to? I mean, in my mind, using a full fizz controller. I remember at Cinegear we talked about when we could see the unit. I believe there's a thumb control and a wheel. Can you explain how someone would operate that?
Yeah. So there's a thumb controller. It's like a little tiny joystick that's on the top left of the controller. That's your zoom. And so you could use that maybe with your left hand, and then the right hand is going to be controlling the focus knob, and then there's an iris slider in between that you would have to switch probably between one of the two hands unless you have a third hand.
For any controller, in this case, like a fizz, for all 3 of focus, iris, and zoom, I'm imagining a camera is in a very difficult place to reach the lens. What is the distance from the controller to the receiver?
So it'll go to, I believe, 1,500 feet line of sight. It's pretty. You can be a long ways away.
But it's got to be line of sight. You can't round a corner, and you can't have an obstruction. Is that correct?
For the 1,500 feet number, it has to be line of sight. You can be around corners. You can be not within line of sight of it. I just don't know how it will compromise the signal a little bit. I'm just not sure at what point you're going to start seeing some delay, and it'll be unresponsive for you.
Yeah, and then so it's line of sight, very few obstructions in the way, and no around the walls, which is, I mean, it's expected. It's a radio controller. What frequency are we on with the hand control, and what needs to be on the camera?
So there's a receiver box. Hedon calls it the VLC. And basically what it is you're on one side of the box, you've got focus, iris, zoom ports, LEMO ports for your cables, and those will go directly into the motors themselves. And then on the other end, you're going to have a rec run, a record trigger that goes directly into your camera. You're going to have a power LEMO, which powers the device off of DTAP. And then you'll have an auxiliary port that's for future firmware or upgrades features.
How much are we talking? Now this is shipping, right? How much are we talking for the full fizz control and all the motors and power supply?
So we have a special price of $79.95, $7,995, and that gets you a one motor kit with the Ymer 3. So everything you need to get up and go on with one motor. And that's actually the biggest motor that they offer. So that's going to be able to drive any lens that's out there. You're not going to have any problem driving the torque of it at all.
So it sounds like, I mean, some people will be like, oh, that's expensive, because of other systems, but you get a high torque motor, and if you think about it, if you're in a situation where you need to have full control, if you needed full fizz control without this unit, you might have to have 3 separate people pulling focus, iris, and zoom with 3 separate controllers. So in that situation, you start realizing like, hey, $7,800 for one controller and the one motor, and you can build out into more, is a lot less expensive than hiring 2 extra people and renting or buying 2 more controllers. I mean, I'm imagining it's not really a situation I'm usually in. I'm imagining there's a cost benefit for there, especially with repeated use.
So the unique thing with Hedon is the lens saver technology. So traditionally on a Fizz 3-channel follow focus unit, um, you're going to have to disengage the motor if you want to manually control the focus, iris, or the zoom. Assuming that you have motors on all of them, you're going to have to disengage the motor, which could uh, disrupt your calibration. So you might have to recalibrate that motor if you need to see, oh, what's the shot going to look like at this focal distance, if I need to adjust focus from the camera, if the camera operator needs to take control over that. It just makes it very difficult. If you want to zoom in on the lens, but you're controlling it with the Fizz, you're going to have to disengage that motor. Look at whatever you're going to look at on the lens, and then you're going to have to re-engage the motor. You're going to have to recalibrate to where the motor knows, okay, this lens goes from stop A to stop B, so it's not going to go too far. But the lens saver technology, it's going to actually, once you send your last command to that unit, 5 seconds after that, if you don't touch focus, let's use focus as an example, you don't change focus for 5 seconds, then that's going to open up that motor to where the operator can manually uh, change the focus of the lens without disengaging the motor. It's not going to have any tension. You're going to be able to look at anything you want to look at on any of the focus, iris, or zoom. You can manually control any part of the lens, and then whenever you want to go back to the controller, you just have to adjust that channel. So focus is what we're talking about. So as soon as you change focus, it's going to zip right back to where it is. It's not going to lose its calibration, and you're going to be able to keep operating. So there's no time lost on set.
Yeah, and that's important is the no time lost on set and calibration or anything with camera. No one wants to wait on a camera team. They want to just get the shot and get it on. And this is
Right.
having that lens memory and being able to not lose calibration. It's a really big deal.
Yeah, that's something that I don't know of anyone else doing. It's also got a for the zoom channel. It's got a push out knob on the side of the unit where it insets when you're not using it. But you click it, it'll pop out into a knob, and that controls your zoom speed. So it's tension related on the zoom joystick. So the harder you push, the faster it'll go. The lighter you push, um, the softer it won't go as fast. Slower it'll go. But you can actually have a zoom knob that's live all the time, so you can actually keep a consistent grip on the zoom control and ramp up and down the zoom knob on the side of the unit as well to control that speed. A lot other systems, you have to go into the menu and assign a zoom speed setting, and it's a little bit more time consuming. But with the Ymer 3, it's a push out knob, adjust it. There's an on-screen display that shows you the percentage of how fast from 1 to 100%, and you can easily dial that in a hurry.
That's actually an important feature because a lot of camera people are used to having like the hand grip on a lens like an ENG style or the Fujinon style where there is a thumb controller for the speed of the zoom. And I know I'm guilty of turning it all the way down so I can then slam
Yeah,
forward or reverse to give myself a slow move because you don't want to you want to make it easy, right? Like if you need a slow move, you want one speed.
yep, yep, exactly. And so it makes it very, very easy to do.
Okay.
It'll work with Preston scale rings, existing Preston scale rings, and it has a limit and a macro function as well. So if you're really on a macro shot and you only want to move less than an inch, you can set up a macro where it'll go from point A to point B, and you might not be moving, very much at all. But you can use the extent of the stop of the focus knob. So the knob's only going to go. It won't keep turning infinity. It'll only go from one point, turn it to the end point. It's a hard stop. So you can make the extent of that entire move last for a move for an inch or a move for 10 feet. You can set that up with your macros.
Oh, that's an incredible feature, because then if you're doing, like, say, products or anything, it gives that camera assistant quite a bit of detail, you could say, I guess, to really kind
Yep.
of fine tune those very small movements.
Yeah, you get the play of the whole wheel to kind of play with the extra fine movements, and along with that, they have an adjustable tension knob that's on the inside of the focus knob that you don't have to get any tools out or anything. It's just a thumb wheel, so you can crank it to be a tighter tension, or loosen it to be a looser tension. So it's very easy to kind of to adjust that depending on the operator's preference.
Oh, well, all in, this it sounds like a very useful fizz controller, and very, like, a lot of deep features that you might not get anywhere else.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of what they're really going to stand out on, is that, along with their precision. I mean, when you pair up the Heaton motors, and that's what they're known for, primarily, is their motors until now. And the Fizz, when you compare it with their receiver box, the VLC that's on camera that does all the brain processing, they don't have any receivers in the motors like with other systems. They just, and it's true to a degree, it really is, that it's not as snappy and responsive. It's going to be dead accurate. It's going to be very snappy and very responsive, 100% of the time.
And this is now shipping. We saw it at Cinegear last year in 2019, but this is now shipping. Is that correct?
It is. Yep. You can find it in any of our resellers. Film Tools is one of them, and B&H, Adorama, Able Cine. You can go on our website at bolddistribution.us to see a full list, but you can find it anywhere Google takes you, just about.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for talking to us about the. I'm going to mispronounce it. How do you pronounce it again?
The Ymer 3.
The Ymer 3. Sorry, I grew up in Texas. Spanish, I know a little bit of Spanish, but it comes to German. No, I'm not very good at it. The Ymer 3, you can find it at Bold Distribution, at filmtools.com, and any other reseller. Thank you.